Thanks for joining us for Ohio and Company. I'm Eve Mueller. We've got a fantastic show for you today. A new approach to becoming healthy, slow and steady. We'll talk with an Ohio woman who is gaining real ground locally and nationally, helping people conquer the battle of the bulge. Also, you will beg your boss to have a meeting at this place. We'll take you to Spark Space in downtown Columbus. But first, Wade Meyer is back with something we call Inviting Conversations. Wade's an author, a teacher, a self-proclaimed conversation starter. And Wade, remind people, you were on the show last week, but remind people who maybe didn't see you what this is all about.
Inviting Conversations provides a venue for people to have intelligent conversation. If you remember, we've kind of lost the porch theory where people would just sit on the front porch and just talk about issues. So here is an opportunity for people to talk about issues. For example, this week we're talking about mandates. There's a big thing going on in Congress about whether or not health care should be mandated. Now we have other things that are mandated. Children are mandated to go to school. Immunizations are required. Auto insurance in the state of Ohio is mandated. With these mandates, should there be a public funding option for people who can't afford it? And so that's the inviting conversation of the week. And just looking for people to express their opinion in a thoughtful and intelligent manner.
And you've brought someone with you today.
Yes.
Brett Andrews is a farmer's insurance agent, and Brett is here with us. Brett, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Eve.
So let's talk about the minimum coverage in Ohio. What is that, and do most people just do the basic minimum?
Well, the minimum coverage in the state of Ohio is actually $12,500 per person, $25,000 per accident. And there are certain companies that specialize in having people simply have the minimum coverage just to remain legal in their vehicle.
And what's wrong with that, I guess I would ask?
Well, the simple problem is if you only have the minimum coverage, you might understand $12,500 per person in an accident that has injuries is not going to go that far. Basically, if you hear the ambulance coming, your limits are up, and anything beyond that is going to be out of your pocket.
So should the legal limit be raised, and is there any effort to do so?
There has been an effort in the State House in recent months to actually raise the legal limit to $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident. However, there are certain companies that have been fighting that movement, saying that if you do raise the legal limits, we will raise our premiums so much that even more people cannot afford to keep minimum coverage.
And I know Wade brought this up as part of his inviting conversations this week about the whole idea of should there be help for people who can't afford it. You know, there's been talk about health insurance coverage in Congress as they try to work out that and possibly requiring health insurance coverage, but there will be some help for people who can't afford that. Should that be the same way for auto insurance?
I would say that everyone should have auto insurance. I think that whatever we can do to help people get that auto insurance would be fantastic. I simply believe that having just the minimum limits puts someone in more of a financial bind than they would be if they had something with higher coverage.
And Wade, have you gotten some sound off from folks already on this topic?
I've gotten a couple of pieces of a couple of responses back. One of them really led me to some misinformation that I shared with Brett. First off, I discovered that the legal limits in the state of Ohio were established in 1968, so they have not been changed in over 40 years. The other is that there's a misconception that if I'm at fault in an accident and my legal limit pays the $12,500 and their person pays the $12,500, but the bill is $98,000, I'll just bankrupt the rest out. You can't do that. If you are liable for that extra money, bankruptcy will not allow you to excuse that debt. That debt will follow you like an IRS debt. If you try and sell your home, you will have to pay your insurance debt. If you work and have wages in the future, they can garnish up to 25% of those wages towards that debt. So there's a real misconception about what those legal limits can actually do.
But what do you say to those people who say, wait a minute, helping people pay their auto insurance? Why would I do that? Why should we do that as a society? Because having a car is an elective thing. You could take the bus, you could grab a ride with a friend. I mean, it's maybe not that simple as I'm saying, but why should we? possibly think about helping other people?
Simply because if people only have minimum limits, that means if you get an accident with these people and you have injuries, their insurance is responsible for it first. Then your insurance is supposed to pick up on it. If they don't have enough, you could be left in a financial bind just as much as they can. That $98,000 judgment that Wade was just talking about, if your insurance isn't enough to cover it, you're left with the balance too, which means your medical bills can pile up and you only get paid out 25% of that person's income for however long it takes to pay off that judgment.
Well, I guess until any laws are changed, we just, as individuals, need to look at it ourselves and think carefully about the kind of coverage that would most protect our families.
And I want to ask Brett a quick question. From somebody who has to pay the insurance bill, is it going to be preposterously more expensive to get higher coverage rather than just what the legal limits are?
That's actually a common misconception about, well, if I just have state minimum coverage, it's actually cheaper than having coverage that I should have to begin with. And in my experience, you can have a $500,000 liability policy for about $7 to $9 more per month than you would pay for a state minimum coverage policy.
Okay. Brett Andrews from Farmers Insurance, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Wade Meyer from
Yes.
Inviting Conversations. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And for more information about Inviting Conversations and how you can join in on the discussion, just go to invitingconversations.com. Next on Ohio and Company, to spark your best thinking and creativity, SparkSpace is the place to be for your next business meeting or retreat. We'll take you there, so don't go away.